Hello and welcome to the Coach's Couch here on Inspired Coach Podcast. I'm absolutely delighted to be with you and welcome you into the comfy couch today for just a really fantastic question that has been submitted by a wonderful listener and a wonderful coach and human being actually by the name of Carol Yosland. Now, before we dive into the couch a little bit further, I want to let you all know, just being upfront, that I'm struggling with a bit of a lurgy, a cough and cold as I'm recording this episode for you. So I can hear within myself that I might sound a little bit raspy or breathy, but the show must go on because this episode has to come out soon and I need to get it to you all. And so, excuse me, I just need to make it happen today. So forgive me if I'm a little bit blocked up or don't sound, like my usual self. But I hope everything's going to be okay. I'm sure it will be. And we will just roll with the punches and get this one out to you. So, Carol Yosland, and Carol's surname is spelled Josеland, and I'm going to guide you towards LinkedIn to find Carol Yosland because that is the best place to connect with her and her fabulousness at this point in time of where she is at in her coaching journey. And that's going to make more sense to you as I share with you all the question that Carol has submitted for the podcast for me to speak to today. So here it is. Carol's question is, how can we use the incredible coaching skills that we have learned? And I feel very blessed to have trained Carol here at the Beautiful You Coaching Academy. How can we use the incredible coaching skills in meaningful ways and careers when we're not yet in brackets, in alignment to have our own coaching business? And for others of you, it might not necessarily be that this question is relevant from the perspective of alignment just yet, but even just timing. Maybe you have trained and you're on the path to having your own coaching business, but the timing of it is just not quite right for you to have launched yet, which could be for lots and lots of different, reasons. Everything from you're traveling the world to you've just had a baby to a whole variety of different things. And so let's dive in here. And I specifically want to focus, Carol, on probably speaking more to this aspect of your question about how we can use the amazing coaching skills that we learn as trained coaches in our careers. And I think that in focusing on that, it will also help you and everyone else to feel into how you can then, of course, use them in your life in a more general way. Now, there's a little caveat that I want to put in about that though, and that is to please remember, or if this is the very first time you're hearing this is a good thing, to know that in our general lives, we should not attempt to coach anyone without their permission. Right? We don't start engaging in deep coaching skills with anybody that we don't have permission to do that with, right? Clearly, we have permission to do that with clients when they enter into an agreement with us that says, I would like you to coach me. But I think we've probably all been on the receiving end of one of those conversations where we feel like somebody might be trying to coach us or might be trying to counsel us or might be trying to guide us in some way when all we've really wanted is to be heard and just maybe word vomit even or just be with a friend and kind of have a whale in a way. without necessarily that being opened up into a coaching conversation. And so that's something just to remember here, and is probably one of the reasons why I'm going to stick with talking about more 5 different ways that I see and feel coaching skills and coach training can truly help all of us in our careers, no matter what sort of career we may have, but particularly if we have any kind of career that involves having a lot of human contact, whether that be in person or online with other people. Now, these are not necessarily going to be revelatory to you, Carol, or to anybody else that are listening, but I think it's great, this question, to really hone in on the possibilities of how coach training is something that can deeply help us in, or anyone in their career at any time along the trajectory of their career, no matter whether you are just starting out, you're somewhere in the middle, or you might be incredibly experienced. So let's dive in a bit further. So the first one, it's not going to come as a surprise, I don't think, to anybody, is the coaching skill of incredible communication is something that is going to serve every person in their career incredibly well. Now, most people who come to life coach training have usually at some point in time or another in their life, it might have been as a child or a teen or as an adult, has done some kind of learning and potential extra training in the area of communication. However, coaching communication is a very specific form of communication, particularly when it comes to the powerful questions that we as coaches ask our clients to really empower them to tap into their own brilliance. And this is something that we do in a much preferred state over advising, guiding, telling. And I think this is most definitely something that we could utilize more in careers and workplaces, where we all know that sometimes it's do as I say, not as I do, or just do as I say. And this is where sometimes workplaces can be, certainly not in all instances, disempowering for some of us, where we can feel like we're not fully being heard, or there's not a culture that is in place where open questions and what they may lead to, which can sometimes be quote unquote mistakes or lessons that may come to us, are welcomed. And hand in hand, going with this, of course, is listening. And the fact that to even have the conditions present to ask really wonderful questions of someone, we have to have been listening to them in an incredibly rich and deep way. This is also not necessarily something that is present in all of our workplaces and in our careers, because we're so hurried. We're rushing from one meeting to another, one, workshop to another, one client to another, one patient to another, depending upon what it is that we do. And so coach training is something that gives an exceptional grounding in outstanding empowerment-based communication. And you don't necessarily have to have permission to ask people deep questions, and certainly not to be more mindfully deep in your listening in workplaces. It is a decision that any single one of us can make about how it is that we want to show up in our jobs, in our careers, no matter what it is that we do. That we make the commitment that we want to ask more curious, interesting questions of people around us to help us get to know them better, to find out what makes them tick, to find out how they're really feeling about something that's happening in a workplace. And also that we listen with more care. We listen with more depth, not to answer, but to understand and to really hear someone. And when we do that, I have seen this happen with myself in my own workplace back when I first started coach training, and long time before I was in my own business full time. It changes the way that you show up at work. It also changes the dynamics and relationships that you have with other people around you for the better. Because people start to see you as somebody that is a more open vessel to receive what it is that they may want to say and be heard with. And that's a positive thing. So many people consider themselves to be exceptional communicators, and yet also running concurrently alongside of that, so many of us complain at varying different times that we're not being heard. And so who's right? It's not necessarily a right or a wrong here. It's all very nuanced, of course, in varying different ways. But this is a skill, this area of communication that just touches so deeply every aspect of our lives. And if we commit to transferring some of the wonderful skills that we use as coaches into our careers, into our families, as well, with that deep listening and asking, more open-ended, heart-based questions of people, just try it out. Truly commit to trying that out in your life and your career consistently. Set yourself a little bit of a challenge to do it, and you would just be amazed at how it will positively impact your career in so many different beautiful ways. So the second thing that I want to talk about, which we talk about deeply in coach training, that is a direct transferable skill, and yes, I'm going to call it a skill, into our careers and lives, is presence. The ability to be fully present with not just another human being or human beings if you're in a group, but also present to yourself and your own needs. This is a core tenet of any good coach, the ability to be fully, whatever that means for you on any given day, fully present with your clients. And that means not rushing into sessions, making sure that you are calm and regulated to be present with someone, ensuring you are prepared, organizing yourself in such a way that feels really regulated, and being focused, which is something that means different things to different people, depending upon how our own thought patterns and ways of being come through for us. But I know that you all know what I mean by that. And that is just not being distracted, not overtly thinking about other things, not worrying about what you're cooking for dinner that night. You've created the conditions deliberately and consciously to make sure that your full heart, your full soul, your full mind, your full presence is with your clients. Well, transfer that into workplaces and or into lives when you're having conversations with children, with partners, with friends, with loved ones. Everything will shift for the better about your relationships. Putting our phones down, turning televisions off, not trying to do too many other things while we are in deep conversation with someone. Now, that doesn't mean, for example, we might not be able to have deep conversations with someone while we're knitting together or walking together or doing something together in a really beautiful way where we can be engaging different parts of our hearts and brains and minds. But it is very, very challenging, and I would suggest impossible, to have a rich and deep conversation with someone, whether it is a work colleague or a child, where one or both of you is also scrolling on your phone. And therefore your brain is being pinged in 1,000 different directions about what you're seeing on Instagram, or you're half watching a TikTok and supposedly half listening or half present with someone else. This requires us to slow down. Not always an easy thing in our careers and in workplaces that are often asking us to move at paces that aren't aligned with how we necessarily want to show up. And so this is not necessarily an easy thing, but it is another one like communication, where the more that you commit to really trying to be fully present with anyone else that you are with, whether you're in a meeting with someone, a session with someone, whether you are talking to a client, you are even with yourself, and trying to be present and focused on something that you're doing, the more likely it is that that will happen for you. But I think it's important to also say that you're probably going to need to orchestrate the conditions for that yourself. Because we can't necessarily just assume that our workplaces and where we are playing out our careers have the conditions that allow us to be as present with ourselves and with others as we might like. A classic example of that is the open plan office. And I sometimes think back now about the absolutely tiny room that myself and 5 other people shared when we were working together in a health service. And truly, I just can't believe it now. Like, the size of my office at home here now that I luxuriously have all to myself is not much smaller than the size where 6 of us used to have desks, chairs, phones, and work in, day out. 3 of those days every week, all 6 of us were there. There were 2 days where the part-timers weren't there. And so one of those days there was 4 of us in that space, and the other day there was 3. We were crammed in there like sardines, all having different conversations on the phone, trying to work with our notes, our thoughts, sometimes wanting to have conversations with one another, but that just being impossible and needing to step into other spaces. Like, how we actually ever were able to be present in some major form, honestly, I'm really not quite sure. I know we must have managed to do it in this very vibrant, busy community health service where we were counsellors and community development workers and psychologists and school nurses and all sorts of things, but challenging conditions to be present. But then again, possibly even more reason why we needed to commit to being so. And so all of the training, Carol, that you have done in coaching that helps you to bring you into you and be more present as a result of that with others, try to see how you can transfer those and use that in your workplace, because just even the commitment to doing so is likely going to shift your energy for the better in multiple ways. The next coaching skill that I want to talk about is a big one, and it is about being able to hold space for others, which of course is the core and heart of the entirety of life coach training. And anyone who has been trained in any form, particularly of trauma-informed space holding, is going to be someone in a workplace from a career perspective that is going to be a better peer, a better colleague, a better meeting holder, a better skilled person at whatever it is that you want to do, and most definitely a better manager. Because all of the skills that coaches learn about holding space for others in relation to things such as being encouraging, empowering, flexible, the communication skills we've spoken about, the presence that we've spoken about, the ability to be able to draw out someone's amazingness from within them that they might not necessarily even see themselves. These are things that we can do for people around us in our workplaces and careers as well. And this one I think is particularly important for anybody that may be leading others in workplaces. If you have people that you are leading in a team, that you are leading in projects, that you are leading in the work that you do, any and all space holding skills are going to be just superb in making you a better manager, a better leader for all of the reasons that I've just mentioned. You're going to be more encouraging. You're going to be more empowering. You're going to be a better listener. You're going to be a better question asker. You're going to be more present and focused with the people who are around you. And so would I love to see all managers undertake coach training? Yes, I would. I think it would be an extraordinary thing for many, many people to undertake this kind of training. It would make them just so much more incredible at what they do, no matter what that particular career was, whether they were working in a marketing agency, a hospital, a school, anywhere. Just these skills are so incredible and so able to help somebody enhance their careers in many, many different ways. And that reminds me to let everybody know, as you're listening right now, that if you are in a career at the moment and you've undertaken coach training or you're doing it right now, make sure you make that known. Get that on your CV. Let it be known that you have extraordinary extra training and adult learning in skills of communication, holding space for others, leading. And those things are always beneficial, always beneficial. I mean, I know I've employed many people over the years, and that's the sort of stuff that I pay attention to. You know, lifelong learners have my heart, and I'm always, always drawn to those people who truly and genuinely just want to expand their capacity in any way as a human being, and coach training is something that certainly gives that to people. Now, I mentioned this briefly, this next point that I want to make, but I want to go a bit deeper in it. And that is about being trauma-informed. Now, when you train with the Beautiful You Coaching Academy, we take the training of people to become trauma-informed life coaches very, very seriously. And there are many tenets of being trauma-informed that are transferable into careers and workplaces. Now, there's far too many of those for me to go into deep detail here, but let me give you some of them. One of the things that is trauma-informed practice as a coach is about not foisting your opinion, your beliefs, your advice, unsolicited or uninvited on others. Now, we all know this is the sort of thing that happens in workplaces all the time, instead of there being much more open and robust discussions, or the asking of questions that allows somebody to express their thoughts and opinions before we may incur our own on them. And so that's just one way to create more inclusive, open workplaces by committing to not doing that. Here's another one, the issue of trust. Now, when you're a trauma-informed practitioner of any kind, coach or otherwise, you never assume that trust should be a given. And that just because you're a coach, that means somebody should trust you. Trust is something that is earned. It is something that is co-created in a relationship between two or more people over time. But we know that sometimes in workplaces, if somebody has a leadership role, a managerial role, that can come with some authoritarian and hierarchical, often patriarchal feels and perspectives that basically kind of gives off the vibe or directly elicits, I'm the boss, I'm the one to be trusted, I'm the expert, you do as I say. And of course, sometimes in workplaces, these things happen where we have to do those kinds of things. But if you are a manager, again, or a leader, or you're guiding a team in any way, actually approaching that and the people that work with you and alongside you, notice I say not for you, because I don't consider anybody to work for me. I consider that I have people who work with me. Very different approach. You will be amazed that if you lead people and you come from a perspective that I need to earn trust and respect here rather than expecting it just to be given to me because of the title that I hold, or that I'm the manager, I'm the boss, I'm the team leader, how much that will positively shift your relationships in absolutely extraordinary ways. It will open up lines of communication, empathy, compassion, heart that are non-hierarchical and allow you and others to relate to you in more meaningful, humanistic ways. And this is the beauty of being trauma-informed. And again, there are so many other things that I could mention here. That's just a couple of them that open up spaces that, yes, are more vulnerable, but also are more real and more nuanced and more open and have a better chance of allowing people to step into who they truly are in a workplace, to express their needs, to give more, to also be able to say, I can't give any more right now. Is there something else that we can do here to shift this? Rather than relationships in workplaces being transactional and not fully and deeply aligned with where people are truly at. This is how things happen, like people becoming burnt out and also things such as sudden resignations that just completely sideswipe people, and we don't know why something may have happened or why someone's leaving, or someone needing to have a lot of time off, or someone's work performance being very up and down in a way because there's just not a trust and understanding and an openness of communication about what may be really going on for someone. And so, Carol, I want to encourage you and anybody else who is listening, no matter what life coach training you may have done, if you're working for someone else right now, go back to the part of your training that speaks to all the different tenets of what it means to be trauma-informed as a coach, and look at the way that those things could be directly transferable into how it is that you show up in your workplace and the skills that that involves, and also even how you might be able to shift and change the culture of your own workplace through those tenets, because they can be used anywhere and everywhere. The final point that I want to make, and again, this is a skill about incredible coaching skills, as you've called them, Carol, and how to use those in our careers, if that's where we are right now, is around self-work and self-leadership. You all know, if you have studied with us at Beautiful You, but I also suspect, at least in part, you will know this from, at least I hope you would, from any coach training that you may have done, about the vital importance of self-orientated work on the path to becoming a coach. So what I mean by that is looking at all of your own stuff, the stuff where you may not fully express yourself or hold yourself back, keep yourself small, people please, imposter complex that may come to the surface, deferring to others all the time, not using your voice. There are so many different things that all of us in varying different ways may need to work on in our personal journeys to becoming a coach and a space holder for others. Well, any time that we do that work for us, we also do it for every single person that our own life meaningfully touches in some way. Family, friends, and yes, work colleagues, peers, in our careers, in our teams that we lead, in people that we guide, in workplaces. How can it not? How can it not? Of course it does. And so hopefully, if we really commit to it and shifting and changing those things that we need to in the most incredibly positive and meaningful ways. And so this commitment that we make as coaches to working on ourselves, self-work and self-leadership, anything that we do there that helps us be more of our authentic self, that helps us use our voice more, that helps open us up to diverse opinions without necessarily feeling that we're being attacked or that people have to agree with us all the time. I could go on and on and on. That's going to make us a braver, better, more extraordinary person to be in our workplaces for ourselves. We're going to shine and show up better there. But also others are going to experience the positive impact of that from us too. And so that commitment to self as a part of this journey is also incredibly important as well, Carol. So I hope those 5 areas are helpful to consider in new ways. Communication, presence, holding space for others, trauma-informed approach to work and life, and self-work and leadership. Those are incredible things that coach training gives people. It's not all that it gives them, but it's some of the things that it gives them that are so transferable into careers and workplaces, no matter what it is that you do, especially if you work significantly with other human beings, whether they be children, teenagers, or adults. Carol, thank you for this really wonderful question. Personally, obviously I'm biased. I would love to see every human being that had any interest in it whatsoever, even if they didn't want to go on and establish a business for themselves, undertake coach training. I think it's the sort of thing and learning in life that just is multi-layered in beautiful, beautiful ways in how it can impact our lives and careers. And so thank you for asking this question and inviting me to speak to it.